Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy here, for nerds by nerds, and I'm hanging out with some of my Nerdarchy crew.
I'm Ted.
I'm Nate.
And today you can behold us as we speak about beholders and Dungeons and Dragons monsters.
Mm-hmm. So we're beholden to this monster concept, huh?
We are beholden to it. So beholders is a great monster. I love aberrations to begin with.
I'm right there with you.
I love the creepy shit.
Yeah, and they can just be whatever you want.
They can be whatever you want. So we actually did a little Monster versus Monsters before, Freak versus the Geek.
Right.
And, Beholder versus Lich.
Yep.
And the Lich got ripped a new one.
Oh, yeah.
In that video. So...
But he's back a few days later after his Midnight Stroll death.
That's right.
Well, yeah.
To wreak havoc.
Liches are a pain in the ass in that way. They're like... They're like boomerangs. You can't get rid of them.
Yeah, so that video was, pretty much, let's take it right out of the book. They both walk around a corner and see each other. What winds up happening?
Right.
We all know the Lich has got a phylactery. It's going to come back, and it's probably going to, all right, how do I bring this sucker down? Or it's going to say, who cares? I wasted 9 days. Let's just avoid this sucker next time. It's got the intelligence to go with that.
But speaking of intelligence, beholders are freaking super geniuses.
Beholders are super geniuses as well.
But the wisdom score must be like a -7 or something.
No, the thing that I love about beholders is their absurd mindset.
Yeah, they're just deranged, pretty much.
Absolutely. They feel like if another beholder does not look exactly like he does, then it is utter garbage and needs to be destroyed because he is the superior race of beholders.
Well, yeah, and that's the funny thing is because I think they all look different. Like, no, two of them they're like snowflakes, really ugly, freaky snowflakes.
I'm sorry for having to bring this up, but to me it was one of the most absurd things. So when they actually made the D&D movie, they turned beholders into like guards.
Oh yeah,
like these things just walking around with a group of guards, and I'm like, that would never happen.
No, maybe servants, slaves. Beholders are highly xenophobic.
Yeah,
they don't like other things, people.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that they have around them are slaves.
Yeah,
and they consider them inferior, more like animals or pets. Really.
Yes. So that's another concept. Having other critters around as pets. I hadn't contemplated that one before. That's pretty interesting.
And they can make their own lair.
Yes,
with their eye powers.
Well, they can carve it out of basically solid stone.
Yeah.
Anyway, and they kind of live three-dimensionally.
Yes.
In the sense that they hover and they fly everywhere, and like a point of orientation to them isn't really relevant because they're a sphere. They're
a sphere. They can see all around them all at once, so they know what's above them, what's below them, what's on either side, what's behind. They got it, and obviously their most potent power is to just shut down magic of whatever's in front of them.
I don't know if it's the most potent, but that's pretty extreme. But then there's the fact that they just have a magical barrage that they can bring to bear like few other monsters.
I agree.
And then they got big, sharp, pointy teeth. So the beholder as a monster that players have to encounter, just sheer brute force, is staggering. Yeah. Then on top of that, you have to add the fact that they're super smart. Mm-hmm. And then when you combine them being utterly insane, and unpredictable, they just make for a bad time.
So if you roll up on a beholder as a random encounter, your party's in trouble. But if the DM has got this planned that the beholder knows you're there, you're boned.
That's a good estimation, yeah. Because and let's face it, if you ran into a beholder as a random encounter, even though it's a random encounter, it has a purpose. It's doing something. Yeah. They don't just wander. They're not owlbears sniffing around their terrain to see if there's intruders. They've got guards for that and slaves for that.
Yeah, they went into the lair for a reason.
And and they can ensure the loyalty of their minions. Because they have 2 eye stalks that produce their magical powers that are dedicated to just that. Because in case you don't know. The beholder has 10 eye stalks. Each one of them produces a different magical effect. and they basically range from bad to worse.
Yeah.
I mean, everything.
The good one's magic missile. Isn't it?
No, I don't think they have magic missile. It's like charm person, cause wounds, disintegrate. There's dominate monster, dominate person.
Is it finger of death, or what's the one that just kills you? Or no, is it stone to flesh?
Stone the flesh. Yeah, so they've got a slow. I think there's a slow and a telekinesis.
Okay.
As well.
Yeah. So they're like a Medusa.
Yeah. So they have a lot of ways to make sure you have a bad day. I believe in Forgotten Realms, one of the thieves guilds is actually run by a beholder.
Yeah.
Oh, an Undermountain, right?
Yeah. I forget his name. It starts with an X.
Yeah, but good luck trying to pronounce it.
Yeah, it's another thing with beholders. They usually have very difficult to pronounce or near impossible to pronounce names.
If I was a beholder, I would want an impossible to pronounce name.
Well, yeah.
And then I would kill everyone for butchering my name.
Oh, absolutely. Because your ego is through the roof.
So you like your first glimpse of encountering a beholder could be like a statuary garden. Just strolling through, and you're like, wow, these are all so very lifelike, but why do they all look terrified?
And a very organic style of them laid out in just random places, by a tree,
Lying
in the water,
lying on the ground, huddled over, in fear.
Yeah.
Like, this is precious, seems to be a popular one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the beholder is kind of a diabolical monster. If two of them meet, they're probably going to fight to the death. For not being perfect, and they also had things called hive mothers from second edition. I remember, they did a really awesome monster series of books for second edition, and the beholder one was like my favorite.
The Tyrant.
Yes,
I had that book.
Yeah, there were so many good things in there. In second edition, which I wouldn't mind bringing this back for questionable mages, is you could actually get a beholder familiar.
Oh yeah, the little guys.
The little beholderkin.
Were they called eye bites, or were they just little beholderkin?
The ones that were smaller than a goth?
Yeah, they were like the size of a softball, but it was like a beholder. And they didn't have as many eye stalks.
I think they had 4 or something.
Yeah. So, and they were like 4, and they were cantrips.
Oh, nice.
Although in 5th edition that would be way better.
Yeah.
But it was just a cool, interesting thing. So here we are, Dungeons and Dragons Monsters. We're talking Beholder. So the purpose of this series is we always have to come up with fun, interesting ways to use the Beholder.
All right. Well, I'm going to totally steal from SR2 Joker and his awesome campaign idea.
Are you going to make a Beholder Rust Monster?
No. He's got a game that he's going to run on the one shot group. But what about if the Beholder is your patron? You're all slaves, to him, and as long as you're, go off on this quest, do this thing, so as long as you're off doing, the quest that he's got you on, you've still got that role playing freedom. You've still got that, that questing option.
You can do what you want as long as you do what he says.
So you've got, it's like, okay, well, I need you to go find this orb. He's got a thing for magical spheres. So
Go figure. Yeah.
They're so round and beautiful.
Yeah. So you've got players that are questing for them. Start the party off a little bit higher, as say 5th level or so. Not high enough to have actually survived an encounter with a beholder.
Oh no, you start them at first. They gotta work for the beholder for a while.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you do it at at 5th, it's possible that that these are all remnants of a group that were dungeon delving, came upon a beholder and lost.
They're the one that's lit.
They're the ones that have survived. So they've come from different party encounters before, and now they're all working for this character. And you've got to go off and do things at the behest of this creature, and have the overarching story is build up enough resistance while you're doing these quests and obtaining more power to be able to bring down the beholder. Can you do it at the right time? Can you make that move
before the culling time? Where he usually kills adventurers before they get too powerful.
Before he realizes that they've become too powerful, or before
he detonates the the magical exploding necklaces you put around your neck.
Yeah.
For such
So
contingencies.
you've got this whole avenue of, all right, well, when do we make that move? Oh, and you can kind of do it in game as well as the players are looking out of game. It's like, all right, well, he's a challenge this, and we're this level. We probably can take him, but we have to add some more because the anti-magic field. Oh God, what do we do? So you've got a couple different avenues,
especially when he makes them do terrible things or not so great.
So that's interesting, right?
What do you guys got?
All right. What about a war of proxies? So the big bad is actually two beholders,
Okay.
and of course they hate each other and they want each other dead.
Absolutely.
But they're cravens at heart, and they don't actually want to be harmed. So they're at war with each other, and they do it through proxies.
Nice.
And so maybe they're in two different kingdoms, cities, towns, or whatever, and they're kind of like the puppet masters pulling the strings behind the scenes, and they're always trying to thwart the other one.
Okay.
Or it could be anything. It could be two different noble houses in a drow city. It could be in the surface. It could be two different merchant guilds controlled by these beholders. You could rip Forgotten Realms off, and you could totally do the thieves guilds. Mm-hmm. One of them could have been there already, and the other one could have moved in and been like, I can do this better, and would take him down. And so, but maybe instead of actually trying to kill each other, they just try and stop and defeat each other at each turn. And as they do it, you totally go off of a trading places storyline, which is, if you guys are familiar with the Eddie Murphy movie, they're actually doing copper bets.
Yeah, I was
going to over certain outcomes.
I was actually going to reference the exact same movie, but from a different angle of what if there honestly were two beholders that looked exactly alike. They've gotten along, and they kind of were like the quote unquote bad guy pairs.
Well, I would go with they get along for beholders, meaning they're not trying to murder each other outright.
And they had that that silly bet going on and manipulating things, in a way. And once you get to the end, it's like, oh yes, we were betting a few coppers or a few gold, over what the outcome would be, and
over destroying your life. So to upend that, me and Ryan were actually having a conversation about Illithids, because he wasn't in our video. He's like, so we were talking about the same kind of concept, but it works for certain monsters. It could work for beholders. It could work for Illithids. Any of those really super intelligent monsters. Right. And I think the ones with weirder mindsets, even more so, because
they're not going to view things the way we do.
Right. So you'll be completely befuddled about what they're actually trying to do. And it may be something that makes no sense, like breaking a dam. And then, the one, for whatever reason, decides that dam has to be busted. But the other one, at the same time, is setting up to make sure what he wants done doesn't get done. So for instance, a low-level party is contacted by this mysterious benefactor who wants to pay them to stop the kobolds from blowing up the dam. Right? So, the one on the one hand, you have the one beholder who is influencing the player characters. The other one, you have the other beholder influencing the kobolds. Right. And the objectives are at odds. It doesn't even matter, and you keep kind of doing things like that, and so it works out, and the players beat the kobolds, and the dam doesn't get blown up. So this guy goes, oh wait a minute, these are useful pawns, So the beholder is a great monster for creating cat's paws.
Yes.
And manipulating them and using them. They could hang out in your campaign for 10 levels before you ever even reveal that they're dealing with, beholders.
Yeah.
It could then you can just keep escalating it and get even more complex with the schemes, and then maybe you introduce even more beholders into the situation. Not particularly playing the game per se, but like a far realm invasion.
Right.
How do the beholders fall into that? What if because you've been using a lot of aberrations throughout your adventures, what if what no one realized was that presence was actually the foreshadowing of an incursion from the far realm, right. And there's actually creatures there that can keep the beholders in line. Eberron did a lot of stuff with that. They called them DAC girls or something along those lines. And they had a lot of really cool schemes that were going on and plot lines using the far realm. Except for I think they called it something else.
Okay.
I'd like the idea of using the beholder in his actual lair and having the players overcome that 3-dimensional space. This is basically like intense rock climbing with deadly traps, interdispersed. And I mean, the first time somebody levitates could be their fall to death if the beholder is nearby and just anti-magics them.
Yeah.
So there's kind of this.
Ring of feather fall ain't gonna help now, is it?
It's like it'd be good in a high stakes kind of feel game where it wasn't where if somebody died, it could be expected that that's going to happen relatively easy in the sense of when you enter a beholder lair. One of you might not be coming back.
What if the players, for whatever reason, wake up in the center of basically an open space, all around them, except for they're on this huge column, and, maybe, 20, 30 feet away from where they are is all walls riddled with, holes and tunnels, maybe even up above, and, then it's it becomes like a prison break.
Yeah. Could be just a fun game that the beholder plays.
Yeah, so it almost becomes like a labyrinth that runs in 3 different directions. I'd hate to have to try and map that out as the GM, though.
Yeah, I think that's going to be that would be pretty insane.
I think that might require a level 12 intellect.
It may.
I don't want to do it. No, but I do want to do it. I think it would be really cool to run the escape from Beholder Mountain.
Someone did a computer mock-up dungeon where it was basically clockwork where it would rotate. And with the rotations, it would change the dungeon. And it was insane looking. So it's not that hard, at least.
Oh, all right. Oh. Yeah, that's true. It's just a whole bunch of holes.
It's just a bunch of
It's
holes.
just like a Swiss cheese dungeon.
All right, so the point to remember, if you're going to throw a beholder encounter out there, you can't use it linear. You can't use them linearly.
You have to think in 3 dimensions.
You have to. Otherwise, you're eliminating the beholder's strengths.
Well, yeah, that and the insanity factor is huge. I think we have to keep that in mind as well. I think you got to try. One of the problems with monsters like this all the time is trying to think like the monster, because their logic doesn't make sense to us.
Yeah, it's a very alien mind issue.
And I would say that the beholder is not likely to fight to the death.
No.
He would most certainly retreat. To an area that is going to be littered with traps and other things to make, if they're coming after him, that it's going to get slowed down. He would definitely do hit and run type things to harass, probably using his deadlier stuff and getting away to try and eliminate a player just outright, or eliminate a.
Oh, not only that too, even just escaping. They had the disintegration ray, so. One of those at the right spot, collapsing things behind you so that you can get away. Or trying to collapse them on the party. Same thing with the telekinesis.
Yeah, just straight up pushing them away, pushing them into another player.
A support column all the way, so the section collapses.
And that's the other thing too. Even though they have this odd thing going on where they don't actually have hands, they have this really strong telekinesis where they can manipulate things.
Mm-hmm.
So they can, so they could probably use a staff or a wand, or I think they put rings around their eye stalks and stuff like that.
And they had these in the eye tyrant. They had these things that you can manipulate with your mouth.
Yeah.
So they had weapons as well as kind of
it was all really weird
grabby
stuff.
hands.
Yeah.
So you could do physical things that might not require magic in it. So.
But why would you want to? You got telekinesis.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's
And now it's stuff like mage hand.
Mage hand on steroids.
Yeah.
So I think this one, just about seen our way through.
Yeah, I think we've looked at everything we can.
I can't do anything with those. On that note, click like, subscribe, comment, and even share.
Check us out on Facebook.
You can also join the conversation on Reddit.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.